online recording. I'll toss it over to you, Brian and Jenna.
All right, well, good morning, everybody. Thanks again, Carol, for putting this together, and thanks for having us have this little discussion about public safety and business connections. Unfortunately, technology got the best of me today, but we'll pivot accordingly and make the best of it. I first wanted to say that I think we all understand the importance of this conversation we're having today of police and business connection, because that connection is the heart of any community policing strategy. But basically today, what we really wanted to do is this pandemic allows us the opportunity to reinforce this position and make sure that we are making headway in doing things that really take good care of our local businesses. So today, Jen and I are basically just going to go through a quick little on the police side, what best practices and what some agencies, at least locally here around Sacramento, have been doing. Jenna will do a business perspective to best practices and things that might be able to help police agencies have a little bit better connectivity. We'll talk a little bit about barriers to that whole police business connections. And then we'll just leave it up to some questions and answers after that. So first and foremost, I wanted to thank Jenna for being on the call. Jenna Abbott is, I have a long history working with her. She's worked on a couple different property and business improvement district as the executive director, both for previously the Mac Road partnership, and now she's at the River District. She's someone I find very energetic about community connections, and I consider her to be a difference maker in our community. So I'm very happy to have her joining us today and giving her insight. In regards to just some basic partnerships, obviously are critical to public safety success. It's just really important to first have some intention in thinking about what those connections mean, and making sure from a business standpoint that our line level staff truly knows and understands the importance of connecting with the businesses in their respective geographical beats. But the supervisors know, and because I think a lot of times management really understands that, but really making sure that we carry that message intentionally down to our front line, excuse me, and making sure that they are doing the things necessary each and every day to really reinforce those connections. So a couple things that seem to be working really well. I think largely our region has been taking a lot of proactive measures, such as increasing patrols in business districts, especially during nighttime hours where those businesses are prone to burglaries. Agencies are redeploying specialty units to provide additional protection to critical infrastructure, such as not only the business corridors, but hospitals and shopping centers. We've had a number of agencies or a number of businesses request supplemental security, which we've been providing on an ongoing basis. This is a great time to sit down with business owners or your local PBIDs and talk about any kind of crime prevention through environmental design aspects, especially video surveillance. What kind of business hour, how they've reduced their business hours, and is there some kind of periodic checks going on to ensure their businesses are safe, as well as having some kind of plan when they do have an extended leave time from their businesses. And that's really where video surveillance comes in, but there's a lot of other crime prevention through environmental design aspects that we could be collaborating with those businesses, especially right now, to enhance their safety. Some agencies are putting the priority of certain calls, such as business burglary alarms. You know, in the past, you know, there a lot of agencies, especially at least like in Sacramento, if certain calls wouldn't get entered based upon the fact that somebody has had a lot of false alarms and that they don't have a responsible available. And what we've done is just realize that we need to get to at least one of these alarms and make sure that, you know, we're keeping those businesses safe. And I know, at least, again, I can speak from the Sacramento Police Department. I've talked to a couple of other agencies who are doing the same, and we've started an online business registry that's allowing our police leaders to communicate various information with multiple businesses very quickly. And you know, we're doing those businesses registries. You know, we're geographically making sure that problems that are happening in those areas. I mean, I think we have a lot of really good connectivity through our PBIDs, but just trying to take better measures and use technology to our advantage to getting out information to those that want it real quickly, you know, providing better two-way communication and sending out information related to specific crime trends in those particular areas. So, so at least from the current best practices is, you know, agencies are taking a little bit better care of these business districts. And a lot of that has to do with, you know, the shelter in place that we've experienced. I know, at least from the police department's perspective, has driven call service down, which has just given us an opportunity to have more free time to take some proactive measures. So I'm going to turn it over to Jenna and kind of let her talk about her perspectives from the business side, and before we jump over into some barriers.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Brian, for inviting me. I really appreciate it. Again, my name is Jenna Abbott, and I am currently the Executive Director for the River District, which is a property-based business improvement district in Sacramento. I've been there since last August, and prior to that, I was with the Mac Road Partnership in South Sacramento for the better part of 6 years. So while I'm new to the River District, this part of the city, I'm definitely not new to the PBID work. And the one thing that I would echo that Brian said is that connection as a business community between the business people and the law enforcement agencies is so important. It's always important, but right now it's especially important. What we're seeing in the River District, and just to kind of geographically acquaint you with where that is, it's Central City. The boundary is essentially the current Jaboom Street Bridge, the river in the back, 28th Street, and either C or D Street, depending on whether Blue Diamond is on it. So that area that we're in right now has a lot of wholesale service providers. So we have a lot of grocery terminals, produce terminals, restaurant supply. So in some ways, the River District has not been as badly impacted as, say, Midtown, that has a lot of publicly facing eateries. But we have, for example, of interest to the law enforcement community, one of our biggest businesses in the River District has a contract to supply food and groceries to all of the prisons and jails in California. So they're obviously still working. That connection between your law enforcement area or your law enforcement agency and you as a business person is critically important. We want to know you. We are hungry right now, always, but especially right now, for your expertise on how to keep our businesses safe. We are hungry to know who you are. A first name goes a long way. So with calls for service being down, as Brian said, you do have an opportunity to get out there and be proactive. Get to know the people in your various geographic regions, the people that you support. That will go a long, long way. I think, the thing that I would leave you with before we kind of move on to the rest of the agenda, Brian alluded to crime prevention through environmental design. Every single business person out there will be acutely interested in how to protect their property. That's a class that I took. I am certified in crime prevention through environmental design, and it changed the way I looked at everything. And it gave me power to be able to provide the businesses that I support with those, easy tips and tricks, like cut down your bushes, trim up your trees, make sure your lighting is good, make sure you have a good video capture system. So hearing that from, their friendly neighborhood law enforcement officer is going to go a long way. They definitely want to hear from you. And I would say take that time to get out there and give them that opportunity to get to know you. I have had the privilege of working both with the Sacramento Police Department and the Sacramento Sheriff's Department during my time working PBID work in Sacramento. And both agencies have been very supportive. I know the police department has put out some great stuff, placards to put in the window. They've given a lot of information around how to make sure that a responsible party is available and where to post that information inside the business in case law enforcement needs to get to it in the case of a break-in. We've also had the opportunity to do some back and forth Q&As over Zoom that business owners can access. So if you have the opportunity to do things like that, we are hungry for it, and we have the time to do it right now because our businesses are generally not as busy as they have been. So Brian, is there anything else that you would like me to touch on?
No, Jen, again, just reinforcing that connectivity, and I can go from like a tactical aspect of this is intelligence drives tactics. And I think you see that even in the business world is, a lot of these stores or small businesses, they aren't the experts in the ways to keeping their business safe. And there's a lot of different tools that we have the opportunity to share. And a lot of times it's just having a conversation. And I have never met a business that I've walked into in uniform who hasn't been energetic about being there and having some questions. And so like Jenna just said, they want us there. They want that connectivity. I just recently was in your business district just the other day over at the Restaurant Depot, and they're doing a lot of work right now. They're very busy, and the store manager there, Rick, he was elated when he saw me walk in just to stop in and just say hi. So it is important that we get out there and use this downtime to really make sure we have a good solid foundation for when everything gets back and opened back up. I mean, we have a significant opportunity here to reestablish and reinforce those relationships.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I think that getting to know you, Brian, I mean, that relationship that you and I developed came out of just that, having you walk in and chat with me about what was going on. That goes a long way. And business owners, they know what's going on in their area, the blocks surrounding them. And by taking that time to build that relationship now, when we have time, or to strengthen it, I'm sure all of you have relationships with the business owners on your various beats. It will help with back and forth conversation when things get busy again. One of the things that we have been struggling with in the River District are the jail releases have really impacted us. A lot of the people who are being released are finding their way into the River District because they essentially don't have anywhere to go. So our business owners are definitely keeping an eye on that, and they will be able to feed you as law enforcement officers information about what people don't look right, who's not fitting in, what the problem is. And we really appreciate all of the extra patrols that we're seeing too. We love seeing the cars. What makes it one better is when you get out of the car and come in and talk to us from a 6-foot distance, of course.
Very good. I wanted to pivot our conversation real quickly before we open it up to questions and comments or anybody else's input. A lot of times there's barriers to, just any kind of implementation of any kind of program or outreach that we're trying to do. And a lot of times, at least, prior to this pandemic, one of the biggest barriers is businesses are just like the police department. They're really busy. There's, time, people, and money are all kind of restricted. And it's taking on this bear of, hey, I got to have this social responsibility surrounding my business. And from the police department's perspective, it's just another layer of work. Jenna, can you at least tell me, what can we do? I mean, how can we take advantage of some of those barriers that aren't there right now because there is this lull? But do you see any other kind of barriers that impact the ability for public safety and businesses to have the best relationship they can?
No, I think I agree with you that now is the time to build those relationships. I think if ever there was a time when the barriers are low, it's now. Everyone, we have a unique tie that binds us all right now. Sadly, it's COVID-19, right? We all have the same enemy that we're fighting. So I would say, Brian, if ever there was a time when the barriers are lower than they've ever been, it's right now. I think that business owners and property owners are anxious and they want to be involved in conversations that will make them feel comfortable that someone is watching their business. They want to be able to ask those questions about how do I get ready for when we reopen? Really, we're looking for human contact. I mean, I love my husband to pieces, but seeing someone other than him is super exciting because we're just not getting a lot of that right now. So, in terms of barriers, there's never been a time when the barriers have been lower than right now. So take advantage of that.
Yeah, well put. I think that's, for the most part, our biggest message today that we put out there is, realistically, let's take advantage of the time that we have right now to either create new or reinforce old partnerships, making sure we're taking proactive measures and listening. Those businesses are often the best source of information for public safety to figure out when issues are going on and what resources we can deploy, specifically what time or maybe the particular people that are involved. And so we really do need that ongoing collaboration to do the best public safety job that we can. We'll leave it up to, or we'll open it up to any kind of questions or comments by some of our CPOA staff. And so Carol or anybody else, the floor is yours.
Brian and Jenna, I guess I would ask that there's probably, I don't even know if it's subtle, but I'm going to say a subtle difference between some of the businesses you're talking about are still, there's some business going on versus others who might truly be shuttered during this time frame. Is there any difference in how those businesses need to be cared for?
Yes, Carol, I think there is. As I said, in the River District, we have a lot of wholesale suppliers, but we also have, for example, the Party Concierge, and their business is large gatherings like conferences and giant parties. Well, their business just stopped, and we don't know when it's going to come back. So that building, they're going in, you know, we have advised them based on advice from our law enforcement partners that they need to be going in there a couple of times a week just to check on things, you know, and law enforcement for their part as our partners is driving around businesses that are shuttered and, you know, getting out and doing some door checks. So I think if in areas of the city where the businesses are shuttered, you know, I live in Midtown, and it is the weirdest thing to walk through Midtown right now and see all of those vibrant bars and restaurants and, you know, eateries and places where people just hung out, that it's dark. And there's been a lot of discussion, you know, back and forth about boarding up versus not boarding up and leaving the lights on versus leaving the lights off. So I think you do have to treat a business that is shuttered for the time being differently. But, you know, and I love the idea of the business registry that Brian alluded to. I think that whether the business is shuttered or open, the common thread is that the owner wants to be kept informed and wants, you know, that this is their livelihood and this is uncharted. We don't know how to navigate this. You know, we know how to navigate a state mandated holiday or a federal holiday. We all know how that works, but this is not normal. So I would say being present, even something as simple as leaving a note on, you know, on the door or through the door, if you don't know how to reach them. Most business owners whose businesses are shuttered, they are coming in once or twice a week at a minimum. Some of them are coming in every day and are just behind that closed door. So if you let them know that you're around and how to reach you, if I was a betting girl, I would say that 100% of the time, someone's going to reach back out to you. You know, if you leave a note or a business card that says, I was here, I would like to talk to you, I think that would be really well received. We don't forget those things in the business community. That's a personal touch, and that's our business. You know, generally, we are in the business of customer service. We're serving you. So when you serve us, even by leaving us a note or by letting us know that, you know, I checked your business, everything looked good, that goes a long way.
And then I see a question here, any negative, I'm not sure exactly, Chris, you might have to pop in and clarify this, any negative contacts with non-essential businesses? Chris, do you want to clarify, is that by law enforcement?
Yeah, I'm curious if Brian or SAC PD has had any kind of negative encounters with businesses they've discovered that weren't supposed to be open, and the police had to take some action, and how that affected the PD relationship maybe with that business, and then how it might have triggered some reaction through Jenna's group.
Great question, Chris. You know, I think I think this pandemic has been a good time to have a little bit of grace and empathy in what everybody is going through, at least early on. And I don't really think that I mean, at least not to my knowledge, that we've run into any issue like that. I think this has been a real frightening time for a lot of people. And I think up till now, people have done what's right. And so it is a worry moving forward. I think as the weather starts to get better and we're a couple months into this thing, people are getting, I think I can see and I can feel the anxieties of what you read and watch on and listen to other people talk. And so, we just have to balance that spirit and letter of the law to make sure that we're having good outcomes. And I think that, again, hopefully we can all come from a place of connectivity and partnerships and doing what's right for the community. And we haven't experienced that yet, and hopefully that we don't.
If I could just add something, from the business perspective, I would agree with Brian. Up until this point, we haven't seen any of that, Chris. The businesses have generally been compliant. I am fearful a little bit that is coming. And here's why. The support systems like the payroll protection plan and the money that the city gave out, we all moved very quickly to make those things happen. Unfortunately, anecdotally, what I'm hearing is that the small businesses, and I'll give you an example. I know a couple of people who have beauty salons and barbershops. They were not able to take part in the PPP for whatever reason, different reasons, for different companies. And they've now been shuttered for 6 weeks. And these are, for the most part, I think where we could, start to see people testing the rules a little bit are these very small businesses, these mom and pops, if you want to call them that. 6 weeks without any income, excuse me, the cottonwoods are definitely pollinating. 6 weeks without any income is a long time when you only get to eat what you kill as a small business. And that's what these, I'm going to use a barbershop as an example. And we are starting to hear, the clanging a little bit against the gate that, hey, we did what we were asked. And we are now seeing that we're going to be in phase 3 or phase 4 of the reopening of the state. And we don't know when that's going to be. And I can't survive another 6 weeks of this. So I think what you're going to see is them asking to be at the table at, a city, county, or state level to say, let us help develop a safe reopening. These are the personal services that I see this coming from. So that's what I anticipate. And what I would ask is that if that does start to happen, that you use it as an educational opportunity. They know in their heart of hearts that they shouldn't be opening, but they also know by looking at their checkbook that they need to pay their bills. Mm-hmm. So I think we are coming into a time where you may start to see a little bit more pushback against that.
Great. And so I have another question here from Greg. How did you advertise for the business registry? Through social media or face-to-face contact?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we did, again, multiple mediums. We put it out to all of those P-bids and businesses that we already had an existing relationship with. Obviously used all of our social media platforms, all of our council offices. I mean, we just try to hit every lane that we had available to us to make sure that we reached out to as many people as we possibly could. And thankfully, we do have a lot of P-bids within the city that those entities already have, a massive outreach. And so we're seeing it's the online business registries trending well. I mean, it's only been open for about the last week or so, and we have a significant number of businesses that have registered and are continuing to register. So yes, it was social media, not so much face-to-face, but we did ask all of our managers who had business connections reach out any which way they could via phone, email, and just used every medium that we possibly could to get that, to leverage that message.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Seeing none and hearing none, I want to thank you, Jenna and Brian, so much for participating on CPOA's Leads event. It was great information. We will again be posting this to YouTube, and stay safe, everyone, and have a great day.
Happy to help, Carol. Thanks for the invite.
Thanks for having us, Carol.
Thank you.